Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. In the last episode, we went ahead and threw our Kerbals at the Mun, gathered a bunch of science, and then brought it back. And in this next set of episodes, we're going to do the same, but for Minmus. However, if you could tell by the name of the series, not only is this a multi-part series, but things don't quite go according to plan for the majority of the time. So, welcome back to Kerbal. It's been a little bit. Thank you so much for coming back, and hope you enjoy this mission to Minmus and the mishaps along the way. So here we are, back at the KSC. Feels like it's been years since we've been here. We have a bunch of contracts already stored up, but nothing that's too pertinent to the mission at hand. And so we're going to just do it even though we don't have a contract for it. We just need some science. So let's go ahead and hop into the VAB and start building. Alright, so now we need a new type of lander. We've got some new pieces unlocked, so I want to use it. This command capsule being one of them. And especially since I'm not too big of a fan of this command capsule's IVA view, and so I'm less likely to use it on the KSP POV series. So it means that I should get a lot of use out of it in this series, because it is very, very helpful. And if you're not having to deal with the aesthetics of it, then it's a perfect craft. I do really like the storage on the side. Makes a world of difference when you're trying to keep everything compact as well as aerodynamic. You don't want a whole bunch of things hanging off the side of your vehicle as it's going through the atmosphere. Alright, so throw some legs on here, and this is essentially it. We need to, of course, put life support on, because we are playing with TAC life support. And those two, that's supplies and trash, should last about 2 years with the current crew of just 2. So it should be adequate for our journey. The thing though is it's always better to pack more, just on the off chance that the mission goes sideways and we have to send up a rescue mission. The Kerbals need to be able to survive long enough for the rescue mission to get there. So I usually like to plan for a little bit extra. There we go. Go ahead and add in our heat shield. And we're getting our descent stage ready. Putting those parachutes on. And now I'm setting up the action group to do all my science, all with the press of a button. And I put a probe core on here, partially because I want to get science, but for some reason it's not allowing me to. It doesn't have the experiment set up, but also because I want to be able to utilize our remote tech flight computer mod. And you need more than just a pilot for that. You need a computer. So go ahead and name this the Minmus Lander 2. And now I'm trying to figure out the best way of making sure that it has enough Delta V to get us back home. Because that is the most important part. Who cares if we get science if nobody gets the chance to look at it? There we go. Built a nice little fairing for ourselves. And as per usual, I like to paint it gold when there's a crew inside. Silver when it's a probe. Alright, now it's just time to build the lifting stage. And those fins are all out of whack, and my side decouplers aren't straight. It's never good. There we go, fix the fins. I have my center of lift well behind my center of mass, so we should be fairly stable. So I put a pilot and a scientist in. We are just about ready. So I don't even bother with a test flight simulator. I just throw the thing on the launch pad and get ready to go. So now we have liftoff. And it's been a bit since I've used solid rocket boosters. Once I unlock the external fuel duct, I typically stop using them because it's just way more efficient to use liquid fuel to lift yourself and replenish it each stage as you go along. Now there's going to be some editing here to speed up things, make things take less time. We've done these launches to low Kerbin orbit so many times that I don't think we need to showcase every little step from it. So we're going to be editing here pretty soon. But since we are still relatively new for Black Rack's volumetric clouds, I think we should always at least go up into the point where we break that cloud layer. It's just oh so great to look at. And once again, I don't have a very good PC. I have an integrated graphics card. It's not very good when it comes to graphical things, but as you notice, the clouds actually do a pretty decent job. Like, they're not too blocky, you know, they interact the way that they should. So if you're hesitant about checking out Black Rack's mod just because your computer's not very great, just you know, take a look at how mine's going, and then you could probably compare your own. So we're just going to try to circularize our burn around the planet now. But I'm going to start running into a problem, and I'm going to notice it here pretty soon. But in short, our engine is not powerful enough. It doesn't have a high enough thrust to weight ratio to push us as far as we need to go in the time that we need to do it by. We are going to not be able to orbit, basically. As you see here, I'm steadily approaching my apoapsis, and I'm going to be burning all the way back into the atmosphere. I'm not going to be able to maintain this. So we need to do some quick thinking and figure this out. Obviously, we're playing with Kerbals. When they die, they're dead for good. We don't get them back. And I don't think we want to lose these two. Both of them have at least 1 star. The scientist has 2, so that would be a huge waste of life to just bring him up here. And especially since I didn't even bother simulating it, like, that's where I'm really kicking myself right now, because I had the opportunity to simulate it and see and figure this problem out beforehand, but I just didn't. You know, hubris. I assumed that I knew better, and I knew what it took to get to orbit because, hey, I've been playing this game for so long. But even when you've been playing this game for so long, you can miss it. Get too comfortable, just eyeball your craft too much, and then not have the thrust to weight, or the delta V, or the ISP, or the M.A.C.H. So as you can see here, I'm 63,000 meters above the surface and falling rapidly. We're using our engine to reverse thrust and try to slow ourselves down, but again, it's not a very powerful engine, even in the vacuum of space, so it's going to have very little influence on our descent, but it's still going to slow us down. Every little bit counts, right? Starting to get some atmospheric heating. We left the fairing on to make sure that we don't get too much heating built on the actual craft itself. little nerve-wracking, but we're coming down. We're slowing down. Our Kerbals, though, seem pretty content. They're hanging out, doing fine. They trusting in themselves. Still coming down really fast. Only 6,000 meters now. Pop the fairing. And I staged the lower boosters. And the parachutes get deployed way too soon. And then they end up ripping off due to the aero forces. So we kick on our engine to, again, try to slow ourselves down, but we are not going to be able to do that because, once again, those are engines designed for the vacuum of space. So the pilot ejects and then deploys the parachute, and we switch back rapidly back to the craft, rocketing towards the ground, or the ocean, actually. And it takes a little bit to get control of our scientist, but we grab her too and jettison to safety. We switch back to our other Kerbal, whose parachute still hasn't quite deployed. It's not a encouraging sign right there. I apologize for the flashing, just some graphical errors. So far, this mission is already starting off on the wrong foot. Our first mishap, and it's not even 15 minutes into the episode. But as I mentioned before, this is a 6-part series, so don't worry. For each of the mishaps we have just as many victories. But it all comes down to the final mission. We'll see how that goes. So now I'm just trying to safely bring her down to the water while also trying to do it quickly enough so that way I can manage both my Kerbals and get them to safety. So I'm leaning back, trying to kill off some of my speed, trying to make sure that I don't hit the water too hard. Go ahead and time warp and just fall straight down. And then I get a little impatient from that and I decide to separate my chute. Oh, real fast, I just take a look at how much life support I have just to see, make sure that we can survive this. But yeah, I go ahead and pop my chute a couple feet from the surface of the water, but that was still kind of dangerous. Could really hurt myself. Alright, so we went ahead and recovered both Kerbals, and then we're back here at the KSC. And we realized we didn't take any contracts for what we're about to do. So let's just go ahead and come in here and look. We got transmit data from the surface of Minmus. We got transmit data from around Kerbin. Both of them are the stuff that we're going to be able to do. And then that's just a contract to test apart. That'll make us some money in the interim. Let's get back into the VAB and try to fix our problems. So first and foremost, we need heavier thrust in our second stage. We need to be able to really push ourselves quickly to get around the curvature of the planet. We also didn't have any communications dishes. We didn't have any way of transmitting the science from around Kerbin. We tried to do that to complete, or not complete the contracts. We didn't get it yet, but to just, test to make sure that we could transmit science, and we couldn't. So I go ahead and put that communications dish on there. Not realizing that that was a relay and not a direct antenna, but we'll figure that out eventually. You know, maybe I should make that a little game. You can spot my errors and my mishaps before they happen and let me know if you saw it early, if you caught it when I didn't. So once again, we're going to lift off, but because of the extra weight that we put on from the 2 tanks and engines, we are now much heavier, so we're lifting off much slower. And once again, I didn't bother to test this or simulate it, so I have no idea if it's going to work. Once again, just kind of eyeballing it and winging it. But what's a space program without a little bit of winging it? So our solid rocket boosters burn out, and we go ahead and stage them appropriately. And our lifting stage went out, and so we're just letting our craft coast up through the top parts of the atmosphere. I stage the fairing once we're in space, and I go ahead and deploy the solar panels and communication dish. So yeah, so our contract to transmit science from the around Kerbin didn't complete because that is a relay antenna or relay dish and not a direct antenna. But that's okay. I'm not too worried about that contract. We have plenty of other contracts that will bring us into low Kerbin orbit that we can do during that time. This mission's all about Minmus. Alright, so now we are circularized. And we shall be changing our inclination fairly soon. I believe this is where I find out that the communication dish didn't work. Do a crew report, and then I go to transmit, and it says no usable dishes on here. So that kind of sucks, because we could have really utilized that if we had it. So go ahead and take my scientists out on EVA, and I had been playing so much KSP POV that I just kind of autopiloted to first-person view to fly around, and then I remembered. This is Escaping Kerbin. We don't do first person. What are you silly? So then I have to kind of relearn the controls a little bit. As you see, I'm trying to adjust my angle, but to no avail. So eventually I just give up on trying to get the right view, and I just point my head at the craft and figure it out from there. So now the point of this mission is to get as much science as possible. So we go ahead and collect everything, and we are going to put it in that science storage unit, the thing that I'm standing on, and that will hold a copy of each experiment in there, as well as copies of each experiment on Minmus. Potentially it has the potential to be a bad idea, simply because if for some reason we have to bail from this craft upon re-entry after we have all of our stuff, I won't be able to easily access that, and so I won't be able to quickly just grab all the science and save it as if it were in the capsule itself, because I could have my scientist EVA and real fast grab everything and then be pulled away from the craft by the aero forces. But the way that it stands now, being in that little box, we wouldn't be able to do that. So we're taking a risk, but the reward is that it'll hold a lot more science. So now it's time to change the inclination. Because after all, this is Minmus, so we have one extra step to do. And now I bring this flight engineer up so I can keep an eye on the relative inclination. We have it plotted into flight computer, so there's nothing I really need to do. I don't necessarily need to keep an eye on the relative inclination because we're not doing it manually. But I like to just know what's going on. So now just keeping an eye on our maneuver. Really fast forward till just before it, and then we burn. If you see my mouse, I'm pointing at the relative inclination. You can see that dropping to 0. We're on the dark side of the planet, so there's not really much to look at, so I decided to go for the map view instead. And with that, our burn is done. So go ahead and kill all our flight computer inputs. Now we line ourselves up. Best way to do is put Minmus at 12 o'clock and then at around 2 or 3 o'clock on the compass. That's where we make our maneuver. I'm sure there's more efficient ways of doing that, and I'm sure better people than I have already made videos and tutorials on doing it. So if you want to really fine-tune and really understand what we're doing here and a better way of doing it, then I highly recommend checking those out. I'm not going to recommend any one particular YouTuber in particular. I mean, I know of several great ones, but I think each person should find which YouTuber works best for them. So just go ahead and Google KSP tutorials, and you'll definitely find a plethora of information on how to do these things. This is far enough in the series that I don't feel that I need to kind of reiterate a lot of these things. I feel like I've gone over certain mechanics and why certain things happen. But of course, if there's any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my knowledge. So it's good to be on the light side again, now that we can actually see our craft. And we got the 3-minute warning. We're 3 minutes away from our maneuver, so we just let the rocket find its right trajectory point, its target, and burn. Now, one problem with this design, as you may be able to see already, is that we are going to utilize this stage that's burning right now to its fullest relatively soon, and we're going to have to spend the majority of this burn using the fuel from the lander itself. So it's very inefficient, and in the future we're going to need to rectify that, but as it is now, we're kind of too late to bring this craft back down to the surface. We are in it. If anything else, we'll just figure out a workaround once we get there. So there we go. Stage is spent. We go ahead and kick it off and use those boosters. Sadly, I forgot to put tank explosives on that lower stage, so that is just going to be some space debris floating around our planet, needing to be cleaned up at some point. Yeah, just in hindsight, I dropped the ball on that one. I should have, because I had been putting the explosives on pieces before, so I've already done that. Alright, so flight computer kind of overshot so we went ahead and killed it before it went too far away. Now we're going to flip around to retrograde. We tapped Z, and that took us way too far. So now we're going to just do the old hold control and tap shift to really fine-tune our thing. And then we circularize around the planet. Or the moon. Excuse me. The celestial body, if you will. Alright, so we've got our maneuver plotted, and so we're just going to send it. We get a nice little view of Kerbin and Minmus in our ship. Coming in fast. Here we are, back at the minty green ball. It's good to see you again, Minmus. And hopefully with the amount of science that we get, we should be able to unlock some more advanced parts that will actually progress us further in our goal to escape Kerbin. But for now, I think this is where I'm going to leave today's episode. We're going to circularize around Minmus and then find the best place to land, and then in the next episode we're going to go ahead and do that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward to more of the mishaps of the Minmus mission. And if you liked it, please consider giving me a like, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.